He was 14 when he found his dad's laptop. 20 years later, he can't get an erection with a real woman. His brain is so rewired that only pixels turn him on. He's not alone. Millions of men are sexually broken, and they don't even know why. Today, I'm going to show you how free online porn became the most successful brain hijacking experiment in human history. Pornography, the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, the addiction that society pretends doesn't exist. The silent epidemic, destroying relationships, rewiring brains, and creating a generation of men who can't function sexually with real human beings. But here's what makes porn different from every other addiction. It's free, it's legal, it's private, it's infinite, and it's specifically designed to hijack the most primitive part of your brain. You don't need money to access it. You don't need to leave your house. You don't need to talk to a dealer. You just need a phone and 5 seconds of privacy. And that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. Today, we're going to talk about what porn actually does to your brain. Not the moral arguments, not the religious shame, not the porn is bad because I say so bullshit. We're going to talk about the neuroscience, the chemistry, the actual physical changes that happen in your brain when you consume pornography. Changes that are identical to what happens to a cocaine addict's brain. And I'm going to show you why an entire generation of young men is experiencing erectile dysfunction at rates never seen in human history. Why relationships are failing at unprecedented levels. Why intimacy feels impossible. This isn't about morality. This is about understanding what's happening to your brain when you click that link. Welcome to Uncensored. Let's destroy some comfortable lies. Let me start with a simple question. Why does porn feel so good? The answer is dopamine, the same chemical that makes cocaine feel good, the same chemical that makes gambling addictive, the same chemical that keeps you scrolling social media at 2 a.m. Dopamine is your brain's reward system. It's designed to motivate you to do things that help you survive and reproduce. Eating food? Dopamine. Having sex? Dopamine. Accomplishing a goal? Dopamine. Your brain releases dopamine when you do something beneficial for your survival. It's saying, that was good, do it again. But here's the problem. Your brain can't tell the difference between real sex and porn. When you watch pornography, your brain thinks you're actually having sex with multiple partners, and it floods your system with dopamine. Now, you might think, great, free dopamine. What's the problem? The problem is scale. Natural rewards give you moderate dopamine spikes. A good meal? Maybe a 50% increase. Real sex with a partner you love? About 100% increase. Cocaine? 225% increase. Porn? Studies show anywhere from 200% to 300% increase. In some cases, higher than cocaine. Think about that. Porn gives you a bigger dopamine hit than actual sex, because porn isn't one partner. It's unlimited partners, novel partners, extreme scenarios, escalating content, end quote, end quote, end quote. All accessible instantly. Your brain evolved over millions of years to seek out sexual variety. A caveman who saw a potential new mate would get a dopamine spike. That's biological. That's survival. But that caveman might encounter, maybe a dozen new potential mates in his entire lifetime? You can see a dozen new mates in 60 seconds of scrolling through a porn site. Your brain wasn't designed for this level of stimulation. Nothing in evolutionary history prepared the human brain for unlimited, instant access to infinite sexual novelty. It's like giving a rat a button that directly stimulates its dopamine receptors. The rat will press that button until it dies of starvation. It won't eat, it won't sleep, it won't reproduce. It will just press the button over and over until it dies. That's what porn does to your brain. Now here's where it gets worse. Tolerance. Your brain is a sophisticated adaptation machine. When you repeatedly flood it with massive dopamine spikes, it adapts. It has to. Otherwise, you'd be in a constant state of overstimulation. So your brain downregulates. It reduces the number of dopamine receptors. It lowers the sensitivity of existing receptors. It's trying to return to baseline. This is identical to what happens with drug addiction. The first time you use cocaine, it's euphoric. The 10th time, still good, but not quite the same. The 100th time, you need more to get the same effect. That's tolerance. And here's what tolerance does with porn. What excited you 6 months ago doesn't excite you anymore. You started with vanilla content, normal sex between two people. That worked for a while. Then it stopped working as well. So you escalated. You needed something more stimulating, more extreme, more novel, more shocking. This is why porn consumption almost always follows a pattern of escalation. You start with softcore, you end up with hardcore. You start with one category, you end up with multiple tabs open simultaneously. And here's the really disturbing part. You can end up aroused by content that doesn't align with your actual sexual orientation or preferences. Straight men ending up watching gay porn, not because they're gay, but because they've built up so much tolerance that they need something more novel to trigger the dopamine response. Women who would never engage in certain acts in real life, finding themselves aroused by extreme content that repulses them when they're not aroused. This isn't about your real sexuality. This is about your brain desperately searching for the level of stimulation it's become accustomed to. You're not discovering your true desires. You're watching your brain malfunction in real time. Now, let's talk about what this does to your ability to connect with real human beings. When you've spent years training your brain to associate sexual arousal with pixels on a screen, with infinite variety, with perfect bodies in perfect lighting, doing exactly what you want at your exact pace, real sex can't compete. Real sex is messy. It's awkward. It requires communication, vulnerability, connection. Your partner might not look like a porn star, might not move like a porn star, might not be in the mood when you are. Real sex requires you to care about another person's pleasure, not just your own. And for a brain that's been conditioned by porn, that's unbearably boring. And this is why we're seeing epidemic levels of porn-induced erectile dysfunction in young men. PIED, porn-induced erectile dysfunction. 20-year-old men who can't get erections with real women, not because there's anything physically wrong with them, but because their brains have been so conditioned to the hyperstimulation of porn that a real human being doesn't trigger arousal anymore. The studies are horrifying. In 2008, erectile dysfunction in men under 40 was around 2 to 3%. By 2018, it was 40% in some demographics. What changed? Not genetics, not testosterone levels, not physical health. What changed was unlimited free high-speed internet pornography. These men can get erections to porn. They just can't get erections to real women. Their brains have literally been rewired to respond only to the supernormal stimulus of pornography. And it's not just men. Women who consume porn report similar issues: inability to become aroused during real sex, dissatisfaction with real partners, inability to orgasm without fantasy. Because real sex with a real imperfect human being who you have to actually emotionally connect with, it can't compete with the fantasy. You've taught your brain that sex is something you consume alone, something you control, something that requires no effort, no vulnerability, no risk of rejection. And now, intimacy feels impossible. Let me tell you what porn does to how you see people. When you consume pornography, you're not watching humans having intimate moments. You're watching objects performing for your pleasure. The people on screen aren't people. They're pixels. They exist solely for your arousal. They have no thoughts, no feelings, no desires, beyond what serves your gratification. You can pause them, fast forward them, skip to the good parts, close the tab when you're done, and they disappear. They're not humans, they're products. And when you train your brain to view sexual partners as products, that rewiring doesn't stay contained to the screen. You start looking at real people the way you look at porn, as objects, as collections of body parts, rather than complete human beings. This is especially devastating for how men view women. When you've spent thousands of hours watching women exist solely as sexual objects for your pleasure, that becomes your default framework. You don't see women as complex human beings with their own thoughts, dreams, fears, and autonomy. You see them as potential sexual experiences, as bodies to be rated on a scale of how closely they match your porn-conditioned preferences. And women can feel this. They can sense when a man doesn't see them as fully human, when he's mentally comparing them to the unlimited buffet of perfect bodies he's consumed online. This is why so many women report feeling like they're competing with porn. Because they are. They're competing with an impossible standard, with unlimited variety, with bodies that have been surgically altered, professionally lit, and edited. How can a real woman compete with that? She can't. And she shouldn't have to. But the tragedy is that she does. Because the man sitting across from her has trained his brain to expect perfection, to expect performance, to expect that sex should look like what he's seen in thousands of hours of pornography. Real intimacy requires seeing your partner as fully human. Porn trains you to see partners as objects. You can't have both. Here's something nobody talks about. Porn is designed to replace human connection. Think about what porn offers. Instant sexual gratification. No risk of rejection. No need to be vulnerable. No need to communicate. No need to care about anyone else's needs or feelings. It's perfect for someone who's afraid of intimacy. And the cruel irony? The more you use porn, the more afraid of real intimacy you become. Because real relationships are hard. They require emotional labor. They require you to be seen, to be known, to risk being rejected for who you actually are. Porn requires none of that. Porn accepts you exactly as you are. Porn never judges you. Porn is always available. Porn never says no. Porn is the perfect companion for someone who's lonely, except it makes you more lonely. Because every time you choose porn over the discomfort of pursuing real connection, you're reinforcing the neural pathway that says, real people are too hard, pixels are easier. And over time, you become someone who can't connect with real people, not because you don't want to, but because you've lost the ability. Social skills atrophy, confidence erodes. The gap between you and normal, people who can date, flirt, form relationships, it gets wider and wider. And porn is always there, waiting, ready to make you feel better, ready to provide that hit of dopamine that temporarily relieves the pain of loneliness. But it's a trap, because porn is the reason you're lonely in the first place. You're using the poison as the antidote. This is how addiction works. The thing that temporarily relieves your pain is the thing causing your pain. But you can't see it, because when you're suffering, you need relief. And porn provides immediate relief. So you use it again, and the cycle continues. And meanwhile, the possibility of real connection, real intimacy, real love, real partnership, it slips further and further away. Until one day you wake up and realize you've been alone for years, not because nobody wanted you, but because you've been so busy numbing yourself with porn that you never gave anyone a chance. Now let's talk about what might be the most insidious part of porn addiction: shame. Unlike other addictions, porn addiction happens in complete secrecy. You don't shoot up in public. You don't drink in front of friends. You don't gamble at the office. You watch porn alone, in your room, in the bathroom, in your car, in secret. And every time you use, there's a moment after, that post-orgasm clarity where you think, what am I doing? Why can't I stop this? What's wrong with me? That's shame. And shame is toxic. Because shame makes you hide. Shame makes you isolate. Shame convinces you that if anyone knew the truth about you, they would be disgusted. So you don't tell anyone. You don't ask for help. You don't admit you have a problem. You just carry this secret, this shameful secret that eats at you, that makes you feel like a fraud. Like you're pretending to be a normal person, but underneath, you're broken. And here's the cruel irony. Shame makes the addiction worse. Because when you feel shame, you feel bad about yourself. And when you feel bad about yourself, you seek comfort. And what provides immediate comfort? Porn. So you use porn to escape the shame caused by using porn. It's a perfect feedback loop. You watch porn. You feel shame. The shame is unbearable. You watch porn to escape the shame. You feel more shame. The cycle continues. And every cycle makes it harder to break free. Because every cycle reinforces the neural pathway. Every cycle deepens the addiction. Every cycle makes you more convinced that you're fundamentally broken. But here's what you need to understand. You're not broken. Your brain is functioning exactly as designed. It's responding to supernormal stimuli the way any human brain would respond. The problem isn't you. The problem is that you're trying to operate technology that's too powerful for your hardware. Your Stone Age brain was never meant to handle unlimited high-speed internet pornography. Nobody's brain was. But shame tells you it's your fault. Shame tells you you're weak. Shame tells you that other people can handle it, so why can't you? And shame keeps you trapped. Let me tell you something that might make you angry. The porn industry knows exactly what it's doing. This isn't accidental. This isn't some unfortunate side effect. The massive dopamine spikes, the escalation, the addiction, it's by design. The porn industry is a business, and like any business, it wants repeat customers, loyal customers, customers who come back again and again and again. So, how do you create loyal customers for porn? You make it addictive. Think about how porn sites are designed. Unlimited free content, constantly refreshing, recommendation algorithms that learn what you like and feed you more of it, endless scrolling, one click to the next video, and the next, and the next. It's designed to keep you on the site as long as possible, to keep you coming back as often as possible. Just like social media, just like online gambling, just like mobile games with loot boxes. It's the same psychological warfare, the same exploitation of human neurology, and porn has an advantage that other addictive industries don't. It's tied to your sexual drive. One of the most powerful biological urges in the human experience. Social media companies have to manufacture reasons for you to keep scrolling. Porn doesn't. It's plugged directly into your evolutionary drive to reproduce. So, the porn industry creates content specifically designed to trigger novelty seeking. They create escalation pathways. They create content that progressively pushes boundaries. Because they know that tolerance builds. They know you'll get bored with vanilla content, so they're ready with the next level, and the next, and the next. They've gamified your sexuality, turned it into a progression system, starter content, mid-tier content, endgame content. And you, the user, think you're exploring your sexuality, discovering your preferences. But you're not discovering anything. You're being conditioned. The porn industry isn't giving you what you want. It's training you to want what they provide. And it's working perfectly. Let's talk about what porn does to relationships. If you're in a relationship and you're watching porn, you're cheating. Not legally, maybe. Not technically. But neurologically, absolutely. Your brain doesn't distinguish between porn and real sexual experiences. When you orgasm to porn, your brain is bonding you to that experience, releasing oxytocin. the bonding hormone. That oxytocin is supposed to bond you to your partner. But instead, you're bonding to pixels, to strangers, to a fantasy that your partner can never fulfill. And your partner can feel it. Even if they don't know you watch porn, they can feel the distance, the lack of presence, the sense that you're somewhere else during intimacy. Because you are somewhere else. You're comparing them to what you've seen online, wishing they looked different, moved different, sounded different. You're not making love to them. You're trying to recreate a scene you watched. And that's devastating for both people. For your partner, sex becomes performative. They feel pressure to compete with an impossible standard. They feel inadequate, undesired, not good enough. Let's dine. For you, real sex becomes disappointing, boring, frustrating, because it's not the highly stimulating, perfectly choreographed, endlessly novel experience you've come to expect. This is why porn use is correlated with higher divorce rates, lower relationship satisfaction, more infidelity, more breakups. Not because porn is morally wrong, but because porn fundamentally changes how you experience intimacy. You can't be fully present with your partner when part of your brain is cataloging them against the thousands of other bodies you've consumed. You can't emotionally bond when you've trained your brain that sexuality is a solo activity. You can't build intimacy when you're hiding a secret addiction that you're ashamed of. The relationship is poisoned from the inside, and often, by the time you realize what's happening, it's too late. Now let me tell you about something that should terrify you. What's happening to kids? The average age of first porn exposure is now 11 years old. 11. Think about that. A child, not a teenager going through puberty and seeking out sexual content. A child, stumbling onto hardcore pornography before they've even had their first kiss. And we're not talking about the softcore magazines of previous generations. We're talking about hardcore, extreme, violent pornography, immediately accessible, on their phones, in their pockets. These kids are having their first sexual thoughts shaped by content that would have been considered obscene 30 years ago. They're developing brains that are still forming, still wiring themselves for how to understand sexuality and intimacy, are being bombarded with images of sex as violent, degrading, performance-based. They're learning that women exist to be dominated, that consent is optional, that rough, aggressive sex is normal, that intimacy is unnecessary. And then we wonder why teenage boys are developing erectile dysfunction, why teenage girls report being pressured into acts they don't want, why young people report record levels of loneliness despite being more connected than ever. We've given an entire generation of children unlimited access to the most addictive substance known to neuroscience, and we're acting surprised that they're struggling. The long-term effects? We don't even know yet. We're running the largest uncontrolled experiment on human sexuality in history, and the subjects are children. What happens to a generation that forms their entire understanding of sexuality through pornography? What happens to intimacy, to relationships, to the ability to pair bond? We're about to find out, and I suspect the results are going to be catastrophic. Here's something crucial to understand. Porn works because it hijacks legitimate biological systems. Your brain evolved to seek sexual variety. That's not a moral failing. That's biology. In evolutionary terms, a male who mated with multiple females had more offspring. Those genes survived. So your brain rewards you for sexual novelty. New partner? Dopamine spike. That's the Coolidge effect, the phenomenon where mammals show renewed sexual interest when presented with a new mate. Porn exploits this mercilessly. Every new video is a new mate. Every tab is a new partner. Your brain doesn't know these aren't real. It just knows new sexual opportunity detected. Release dopamine. But here's the betrayal. This system was designed for a world of scarcity, a world where seeing a new potential mate was rare, special. In that world, the Coolidge effect served a purpose. It ensured genetic diversity. In the age of internet porn, it's a malfunction. Your brain is trying to get you to mate with pixels. It's releasing bonding hormones for strangers you'll never meet. It's creating tolerance to ensure you keep seeking new mates who don't exist. Your biology is working against you. The same systems that helped your ancestors survive are now trapping you in addiction. And the porn industry knows this. They've studied the neuroscience. They know about dopamine, about the Coolidge effect, about tolerance and escalation. They've weaponized your biology against you. This isn't a fair fight. You're fighting millions of years of evolution that's been hacked by a multi-billion-dollar industry with unlimited resources and zero ethical constraints. You're not weak for struggling. You're outgunned. So here's the question everyone wants answered. If you stop watching porn, can your brain heal? The answer is yes, but it's not quick, and it's not easy. Your brain is plastic. Neuroplasticity, the ability to form new neural pathways and prune old ones. It's how you learn. It's how you adapt. It's how you change. When you stop using porn, your brain begins to recalibrate, slowly. The first few days are the hardest. You're in withdrawal. Your brain is screaming for the dopamine it's accustomed to. You'll experience cravings, anxiety, depression, irritability, insomnia. This is normal. This is your brain recalibrating. After about a week, the acute withdrawal symptoms start to fade, but you're not healed. You're just through the worst of it. The first 30 days are critical. This is when most people relapse. Because the cravings come in waves. You'll have good days where you feel confident. Then triggers hit, and suddenly you're overwhelmed with urge. This is when you need support, accountability, tools to manage urges. After 90 days, the famous reboot period, most people report significant changes. Morning erections return. Attraction to real people returns. Confidence increases. Social anxiety decreases. But you're still not fully healed. The neural pathways are still there, dormant, but not deleted. After 6 months to a year, you start to feel like a different person. Colors seem brighter. Food tastes better. You can feel emotions fully. You can connect with people." End quote. This is what normal feels like. This is what your brain is supposed to feel like when it's not constantly flooded with supernormal stimuli. But here's the truth. You're never cured. Those neural pathways can reactivate. One use can trigger a binge. One binge can put you back to day one. This isn't meant to discourage you. It's meant to prepare you. Addiction leaves scars, and you have to respect those scars. But healing is possible. Complete, transformative healing. I've seen men who couldn't function sexually with their partners fully recover. I've seen people rebuild intimacy, rediscover attraction to real humans. Your brain can heal, but you have to give it the chance. Let me be brutally honest about what quitting porn actually looks like. Because if you go into this unprepared, you'll fail. The first 48 hours are deceptive. You might feel motivated, determined, optimistic. That's the honeymoon period. Enjoy it, because it doesn't last. Days 3 to 7 are hell. Your brain realizes the dopamine supply has been cut off, and it panics. You'll experience crushing urges to use, inability to focus, irritability over nothing, depression, anxiety, insomnia, physical restlessness, constant thoughts about porn. This is withdrawal, real, physical withdrawal. Your brain is literally craving the chemical it's addicted to. And here's what makes it harder than drug withdrawal. You can't remove the source. Cocaine is in your dealer's house. Porn is on your phone, in your pocket, available in 3 seconds. The temptation is constant. Around day 10 to 14, many people experience flatline. Your libido completely disappears. You can't get aroused by anything. Not porn, not real people, nothing. This terrifies people. They think they've permanently broken themselves. They panic and relapse, thinking that porn is the only thing that still works. But flatline is normal. It's your brain resting, recovering, resetting its sensitivity. It can last days or months. There's no set timeline. And during flatline, you'll question everything. Maybe porn wasn't the problem. Maybe I'm just broken. Maybe I should just accept that I need porn. These are lies your addicted brain tells you to get you to use again. Push through. Around week 3 to 4, you'll start having euphoric recall. Memories of porn use will pop into your head, and they'll be romanticized. You'll remember how good it felt, how easy it was, how much you miss it. Your brain is trying to seduce you back. This is where most people relapse. They convince themselves they can just check if they're healed, just one time, to see if they still have a problem. This is a trap. There's no such thing as just once with addiction. By week 6 to 8, if you've made it this far, things start to shift. You'll have moments of clarity, of energy, of actual arousal toward real stimuli. These moments are glimpses of what life without porn feels like. Hold onto them. But you'll still have bad days. Days where the cravings return with full force. Days where you're convinced you can't do this. This is normal. Healing isn't linear. Month 3 is a milestone. Many people report this as a turning point, where the good days start to outnumber the bad days. But you're not done. The neural pathways are still there. The addiction is dormant, not dead. This is a lifelong journey, not a 90-day challenge. Let me show you what porn actually costs you, not in money, in life. Let's say you watch porn for 30 minutes a day. That seems moderate, right? Not extreme. 30 minutes a day equals 3.5 hours a week, equals 182.5 hours a year. That's 7.6 full days, a full week of your life every year spent watching porn. Over 10 years, 76 days. Over 20 years, 152 days. Almost half a year of your life. But that's just the time actively watching. What about the time thinking about porn? The time seeking out new content? The time recovering from sessions? The time in the shame spiral after? The time managing the double life? Now we're talking about months, maybe years. What could you have done with that time? You could have learned a language, mastered an instrument, built a business, written a book, developed genuine relationships. Instead, you gave it to porn. But time isn't even the real cost. The real cost is who you could have become. Every time you chose porn over discomfort, you chose weakness over strength. Every time you chose pixels over pursuing real connection, you chose isolation over intimacy. Every time you chose the easy dopamine hit over doing something difficult, you chose stagnation over growth. Porn didn't just take your time. It shaped who you became. You became someone who takes the easy path, someone who avoids discomfort, someone who chooses instant gratification over long-term fulfillment. And maybe the worst part? You don't even know who you could have been. Who would you be if you'd never started? If you'd invested all that energy into becoming someone instead of numbing yourself? You'll never know, because that version of you doesn't exist. You killed him, one click at a time. That's the real cost. So, what's the alternative? What do you do with all that sexual energy? Because let's be clear, the urges don't disappear. The sexual drive is still there. It's biology. It doesn't go away. So you redirect it. This is called transmutation, taking sexual energy and channeling it into something productive. Artists have known this for centuries. Athletes know this. High performers know this. Sexual energy is creative energy. It's life force. It's the most powerful motivational force in the human experience. And you've been wasting it on porn. Imagine what you could do if you redirected that energy, all that drive, all that intensity, all that focus. You could channel it into physical training, creative work, building a business, learning skills, pursuing real relationships, personal growth. The monks knew this. They practiced celibacy not to suppress sexuality, but to harness its power for spiritual growth. The athletes know this. Many top performers abstain before competition because sexual energy heightens focus and drive. You don't suppress the energy, you transmute it. When you feel urges, you don't fight them. You redirect them into a workout, into work, into creation. The energy doesn't disappear. It transforms. And over time, you become someone different, someone with drive, discipline, direction. Today, you become the person porn was preventing you from becoming. This isn't about becoming asexual. It's about becoming intentional. Your sexuality is powerful, too powerful to waste on pixels. Let me tell you what real intimacy feels like, because if you've been using porn for years, you might never have experienced it. Real intimacy isn't performative, it's presence. It's looking into your partner's eyes and actually seeing them, not comparing them to someone else, not thinking about what you watched last night, just seeing them. It's being fully in your body, feeling every sensation, every touch, every breath. But it's vulnerability, letting yourself be seen, letting yourself be imperfect, letting yourself be human. It's connection. Two people creating something together. Not one person using another person as a masturbation tool. Real intimacy is slow, it's awkward, it's messy, it's real. And it's infinitely more satisfying than porn. Because porn gives you a dopamine spike. Intimacy gives you fulfillment. Porn leaves you empty. Intimacy fills you up. Porn is consumption. Intimacy is creation. But you can't experience real intimacy while you're still using porn, because porn has rewired your brain to expect something that intimacy isn't. You expect perfection. Intimacy is imperfection. You expect performance. Intimacy is presence. You expect instant gratification. Intimacy requires patience. You have to unlearn everything porn taught you about sexuality. You have to rediscover what it means to connect with another human being, not as an object for your gratification, but as a whole person with their own inner world. And that's scary, because it requires you to be vulnerable, to risk rejection, to be imperfect. But it's worth it. Because real intimacy, the kind where you're fully present with another fully present human being, that's what your sexuality was designed for. Not pixels. People. So here's where we are. You now know what porn does to your brain. The dopamine hijacking, the tolerance, the escalation, the rewiring, the isolation, the shame, the cost. You know it's designed to addict you. You know it's destroying your ability to connect with real people. You know it's stealing your time, your energy, your potential. You know all of this. And you have a choice. You can keep using. Keep telling yourself it's not that bad. Keep convincing yourself you have it under control. Keep living the double life. Keep feeling the shame. Keep watching your relationships fail. Keep experiencing sexual dysfunction. Keep feeling disconnected from real intimacy. Keep being the person porn has made you, or you can stop. Not try to cut back. Not reduce usage. Not only on weekends. Stop. Complete. Total. Permanent. Because there's no such thing as moderate use of an addictive substance. You can't casually use cocaine. You can't casually use heroin. You can't casually use porn. You're either using or you're not. There's no middle ground. And if you choose to stop, you need to know it's going to be hard. You're going to struggle. You're going to have urges. You're going to want to give up. You're going to convince yourself that you're different, that you can handle it, that one time won't hurt. And you'll be wrong. But if you persist, if you push through the withdrawal, survive the flatline, resist the euphoric recall, rebuild your neural pathways, you'll discover something incredible. You'll discover who you are without porn. And that person is stronger than you think. That person can connect with real humans, can experience real intimacy, can feel real emotions. That person has energy, drive, clarity. That person isn't numb, isn't hiding, isn't ashamed. That person is you, the real you, the you that porn has been smothering. But you have to choose him. So here's the final truth, the one nobody wants to hear. Porn isn't just bad for you. It's not just unhealthy. It's not just problematic. Porn is one of the most effective tools ever created for destroying human potential. It takes your most powerful drive, your sexuality, your life force, and redirects it into a black hole of pixels that give you nothing in return. It hijacks your brain's reward system and conditions you to seek gratification in isolation rather than connection. It trains you to view people as objects, to prefer fantasy over reality, to choose easy over meaningful. It makes you weaker, more isolated, more ashamed, more broken. And it does all of this while convincing you that it's helping you, that it's stress relief, that it's harmless, that you have it under control. That's the lie. The truth is, porn is taking everything from you and giving you nothing. And every day you use it, you're choosing to stay broken. Every day you don't quit, you're choosing porn over your potential. Every click is a vote for the person porn has made you instead of the person you could become. So, what are you voting for? Are you voting to stay numb? To stay isolated? To stay sexually dysfunctional? To stay ashamed? Or are you voting to reclaim your brain, your sexuality, your potential? Because you can't have both. You can have porn, or you can have a real life. Choose. This was Uncensored. If this made you uncomfortable, good, because comfortable lies are what got you here. Subscribe if you're ready to hear more truths that will destroy your comfortable delusions. Next time, why you're so lonely in the most connected era in history, and why your phone is the reason.